Hello, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. The night before the start of the Six Nations, the 2023 tournament is here. So this is my preview video. I'm going to say who I think is going to win the Six Nations, explain why, even though I'm not fully confident in my pick. And then I'll also go through the opening 3 games this weekend and just some general thoughts on what I think we can probably expect from Wales against Ireland, England against Scotland, and Italy against France. If you are new to the channel, do subscribe, hit the like button, and drop a comment down below. Who do you think is going to win the Six Nations, and what do you make of the games this weekend? Let me know. All right, let's get into it. So I think that Ireland are going to win the Six Nations in 2023. It's not a controversial pick. It's many people's favourites. They're the #1 team in the world. But I do think that they are going to get the job done. I know that France are the defending champions and many people's favourites to win the World Cup on home soil later this year. But generally speaking, I think if you look at this Six Nations, it's Ireland's to win. And there's one main reason for that, actually, which is home advantage. They play France at home and they play England at home as well. And if you look back to the last Six Nations, they were really close to beating France away from home in the Stade de France. It was a brilliant test match and France just came out on top in that game. But I think the fact that it's going to be in Dublin, which is going to be in week 2, actually, it could be the game of the tournament just in the second week. I think Ireland will get the job done. And also if you look at France, because I think all of us would have Ireland as France as the 2 favourites, it kind of just depends which one you're going for. France towards the end of the autumn, I thought their form was dipping off very slightly. They're still a brilliant team. They have brilliant players, but I don't know, they had some pretty close run games there against South Africa, against Australia as well. So I just wonder whether they're going to have a very slight dip before the home World Cup later this year, which will be their priority. So that's why I think Ireland are going to win the Six Nations. Now, why might I be wrong with this prediction, which could well be the case, by the way? I'm not that confident in it. And there's one main reason for that, which is that most Six Nations, there's normally a surprise result or a couple of surprise results. And at the moment, I'm just not too sure what that surprise result is going to be. And in fact, there's even part of me that on this opening weekend, Wales against Ireland in Cardiff at the Principality Stadium, the return of Warren Gatland, it's quite plausible that that's the upset. And then all of a sudden, Ireland are on the back foot to win the Six Nations, and my prediction potentially goes out the window. Now, I have seen a lot of people also say that they don't think it will be a Grand Slam this year, whoever does win it. So somewhere in there's going to be some banana skins, but I'm just really not sure where it's going to be at the moment. Because you look at Wales and they were absolutely terrible in the autumn, pretty terrible all of last year, but they've got the Gatland factor, him coming back to it, a very experienced side. Who knows what to expect from England? On paper, as usual, England have a pretty strong starting side, but what sort of impact is Steve Borthwick going to be able to have on that group? I'm just not sure at this moment in time. We'll have to wait and see how they perform against Scotland. And then Scotland, you've got a side who on their day can play incredibly well. They almost beat the All Blacks in the autumn. They've had some good results in the Six Nations over the years, normally in beating England, but it just depends whether they're going to be able to back those results up. Can they put a run together? So there is the potential, as there always is with the Six Nations, for everything, the form book, to go out of the window. And don't forget how important momentum is in the Six Nations. Can't remember exactly what year it was, but there was that year where Wales played France in their opening game. I think it was possibly in Paris. And Warren Gatland said before the game, if we win this game, we go on to win the Six Nations. We go on to do the Grand Slam. And that's exactly what happened, because if you can get a run of momentum together in this championship, it's absolutely pivotal. So let's see what happens in this opening weekend. And also it's worth, I heard Chris Jones on the Rugby Union Weekly make this point, that even if let's look at England as a case study in this and the unpredictable nature of the Six Nations. They've got Scotland at home in their opening game. Could go either way. Scotland could go in there and do the job on them, but you know, it's by no means ridiculous to say England will beat Scotland. You then look at their other games. They've got Italy away in the second week. Again, they've never lost to Italy. You'd expect them to beat the Italians there. They then got Wales away, who, as I've just been saying, we don't know what to expect from them. Let's say the Warren Gatland's return isn't as successful as people hoped, and Wales are coming into that game already having had one defeat. England could potentially go 3 from 3. Then they're at home to France at Twickenham. If they are unbeaten up to that point, that's going to be a massive, massive occasion. And then they've got Ireland away, St. Patrick's Day weekend in that final game. It's not ludicrous to suggest that England could potentially be in a situation where they've gone deep into this tournament and they've won their first 3 games. And from that point, who knows what is going to happen. So that's just my kind of general thoughts on how the Six Nations is always so difficult to call. But as I say, I do think it will be Ireland. Whether it's a Grand Slam or not, I don't know. I just think Ireland are going to have too much quality, particularly that France game being at home. I think that could be absolutely key. But let's get into the games this weekend. 3 really good matchups. Wales against Ireland. As I've already said, Warren Gatland returning to Wales. They've picked a squad which is really, really experienced. I did a video on the channel earlier in the week about Wales' squad. Warren Gatland named it on Tuesday. He went a little bit early. You've got Ken Owens captaining the side. You've got Alan Wynne-Jones in the second row, Justin Tipperick in the back row, Faletau, George North. Liam Williams has come in at fullback in place of Lee Halfpenny, but there's an awful lot of experience in that Wales side. So is that going to be enough to get the job done? I think the general reception around Wales has not exactly been positive, probably not too sure what to make of what this Wales team are going to do. There's certainly some areas I would have made different selections, but look, Warren Gatland has been there before. He has done it with this Wales team. What I do think he'll be able to do is make Wales harder to beat than they have been. Whatever we think about it, I think this game against Ireland will be closer than we expect. Ireland, I think, will win, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be particularly easy for them. And also, speaking about Ireland, and I know I've picked them to win the championship, their success in this Six Nations, I think you could say, is going to be determined a lot by the health of Johnny Sexton. If you look at last year, the games Sexton missed was the Six Nations game away to France and was the first test against the All Blacks in the summer. Both of those tests they lost. He then missed the Australia game at the end of the autumn, and Australia came close to getting a pretty big result, a big victory in Dublin. Those 3 examples show exactly how important Johnny Sexton is to this Irish side. So the health of Johnny Sexton is going to be absolutely key. Next up is England against Scotland, Steve Borthwick's first game in charge. It's kind of a story, really, of a very settled Scotland side against an unknown new era for England. Now, Gregor Townsend did throw some curveballs in there. Again, there's a video on the channel, me looking ahead to England against Scotland in terms of more details of that team news. But there were some interesting selections in there, particularly Hugh Jones in the centres, Luke Crosby in the back row, and Ben White at scrum half as well. Many people didn't necessarily see those names being called by Gregor Townsend. So I think it's an attacking Scotland side. It's a Scotland side picked on form. And form is also what Steve Borthwick is going for in terms of he's picked players who have been on good form in the Gallagher Premiership. Ollie Hassel-Collins, Max Malins, Joe Marchant, a number of other guys, Ben Earl on the bench. So there is a lot of unknown, I think, going into this game. Scotland, in terms of the recent history in the Calcutta Cup, have the momentum. They have done very, very well against England in recent games. I think that's so far probably been the great success of Gregor Townsend's tenure as Scotland coach, is perhaps getting over maybe what was a little psychological hump when it came to playing England. They have beaten England at Twickenham, but that was in COVID, so there were no fans there. This is going to be a different element for Scotland at Twickenham. That's why, with Steve Borthwick and Kevin Sinfield coming in, I just expect England, with the home crowd who are going to be energised from no longer having Eddie Jones, from having a bit of a new era. I think the atmosphere is going to be awesome at Twickenham. That's why I just think England might get the job done. But honestly, again, it's a game that could go either way and is going to be pivotal for both of these teams in shaping what the rest of their championship looks like. The scrum also, I've jotted down here, as an important element. That's probably, from an English perspective, I would say the biggest worry. They had the worst scrum pretty much, I think, in international rugby over the course of last year. So can Scotland attack them there? Have England had enough time to shore up that element of the game? Let's wait and see. Just finally, Italy against France. What can Italy do this Six Nations? Of course, famous win against Australia in the autumn. That brilliant last gasp win against Wales in the final round of the Six Nations last year. Is this something Italy can build upon? Or, and as I fear it might be, are they going to continue to be a side that really struggle to have a consistent and meaningful impact on the Six Nations? I hope I'm wrong there, but I don't know. I guess I'm waiting to see the evidence of it on a consistent basis before I'm going to be hugely excited about what Italy will bring. And look, their first game isn't easy. France, I mean, come in as reigning champions. It's not easy to defend a Six Nations, by the way. That is something that not too many people are talking about. It does happen, but it's not an easy task to win back-to-back championships. I think they're going to have a good go at it. I think they're going to finish second to Ireland, as I've already said. In terms of the French team news, there was a few interesting bits in there. There's a debut for Ethan Dumortier on the wing, and also Nolan Lagarec on the bench as well. But other than that, it's a pretty similar team to what we're used to from Fabien Galtier. And I saw Paul Edison, who covers a lot of French rugby, put on Twitter that 9 of the starting 15 for this game against Italy played in his first team announcement back in 2020, which just shows you, I think, the sense of identity and direction of this French team. We know they're packed full of quality. I think they will beat Italy. And I think it'll probably be quite comfortable, although last year in the Six Nations it wasn't as easy, anywhere near as easy in fact as people expected, and maybe Italy have a bit of confidence given those couple of victories that I just mentioned. So that's kind of my general preview. I'm picking Ireland to win the Six Nations. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Who do you think is going to win the championship? What do you think is going to happen in the games this weekend? Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.